Ironside will not be seen tonight, so we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
I'm Alex Ross.
The two pieces are sort of a type. They're both kind of recreations of artwork that existed in the 90s. In fact, this piece here for the Avengers is in most ways a recreation or a tribute to George Perez's poster version from the mid-90s, where he did a shot that featured in it a figure of Captain America that was very similar to what I've done here, positioning of the Vision or positioning of Hawkeye, and I believe a few other elements are very similar to that piece, and it's consciously so. I was building off that inspiration, but I kind of refitted my design to fill out bigger shots of the figures so that I was making a wider composition and getting in a lot of the same characters, but still not quite as many as what George himself did, because George's thing was always to try and get in the maximum amount of content into pieces that he did.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Raise a cup or glass to our guest today. One of my favorite
Star Wars glass.
Very nice. One of my favorite Greeks in comics, and there aren't that many that but it's always good to talk to Chris Eliopolous, fellow Greek, and a wonderful artist, wonderful writer, collaborating with Brad Meltzer of late. How many years now of late?
So in January, we go out on a 10-year anniversary tour. So it's been 10 years.
Wow.
The Tuesday of the book launch followed the Sunday of running the Disney World Marathon. And so this year I'm doing the same thing. I'm running the marathon and then meeting Brad on tour. And we're going to go sell some books.
That's excellent, man. Outstanding. Is Fred Rogers, is that the latest?
That is the latest. It came out on Halloween, as a matter of fact.
Excellent. And I inadvertently called you about some business stuff and on your cell, and you're like, dude, I'm literally at the White House right now.
Yeah.
So tell me about that experience. What was the deal? Was it you and Brad? Give us the full details.
Yeah. So Jeff Kinney, who does Diary of a Wimpy Kid, we're friends with him. And I guess there was an outreach from the White House to do an event for Halloween. Normally, they get the president, the first lady, hand out candy. This year's theme was Holla Read. So they wanted to have some authors come in, like children's authors come in and read and do stuff. So Jeff, I guess, got contacted, organized it, asked if we wanted to come as well. So we said yes, of course. And it was wild. We got to go in. Met up with Jeff and his family, and then we all got together and went over. I dressed as Clark Kent changing into Superman, as one does. And we went, we read a couple of times. It's funny, we read once, and I was drawing, and I did drawings for kids. And then after Brad left the stage, more kids wanted drawing. So I stood there and drew for everybody. And then it was funny because business gets conducted during the day. The press secretary was supposed to come out and do a reading, and she was detained. So they were like, you got to go again. So we had to run out. We were at the White House. We literally ran out onto the stage, this little makeshift stage, and did it again. And then she went up and read, and then the first lady came out and read. And then and during the day, Jeff had read as well. And then he had one of his characters in a full body costume there. For us, we had a woman dressed as Wonder Woman. So, and she was so tall and she so looked apart. It was amazing. And then at the end, it's whatever time o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever. The president and the first lady come out and they hand out candy to the kids. So we had to wait for like 8,000 kids to come through. Man, let me tell you, they were like amazing. The fact that they stood there for an hour and a half handing out candy. And then it started to rain a little bit. And then by the time we finally got over there, it was just coming down. They didn't move. They greeted everybody. We said our hellos, took a picture.
Wow.
And then it was like, see ya. And they walked us out into the night. And we had to walk back to our hotel. And later that night, we went to the Wizards and the Celtics game.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, Jeff got a little suite up there, and we all watched the game. So,
oh man, I as a sports radio guy for decades, nothing like the luxury boxes at the nice stadiums.
Yeah,
so I'm sure it was a great night.
It was fun. It was a really good time. Yeah.
What kind of candy do they hand out at the White House for
Halloween? So what's really interesting is there's the circle, the I don't know, I forget what it's called, around the lawn, and each of the different secretaries sets up a booth. So, you know, Homeland Security and Treasury and, education, they all have their own thing, and you go up and they give you stuff, so for the kids, so each had different kind of candy. I will say the best was the Treasury Department. They had handed out full-size 100-gram bars, as they do Treasury.
It makes sense.
They gave chocolate coins. More.
Oh, all right, lovely, fantastic.
And they gave out little bags of shredded dollar bills. So this little bag had about $25.
Yeah. I remember seeing that crap, but
they were so on theme. It was amazing. But they all gave out something. Some, there was cookies. There was, they go crazy. But the kids were great. Like I think they had families of service members there, and then some local schools. So, it's a very nonpartisan thing. It was very
that's awesome,
sweet and fun to meet the kids and talk with them and draw for them and stuff. So
Department of Intelligence gives out declassified information, I would imagine.
They led us to the secret tunnels through the White House.
Did they really?
No. Although I will say, Brett, so what happened was we were in this one section. We were in the White House proper, but they put us in a holding area ahead of time. Like it was like in the White, like literally Michelle Obama's portrait was sitting right next to the door that we went in. Wow. And Brad was like, if you go down that hallway and you make a right and a quick left by the red carpet there, the secret tunnels are right there. And I'm like, how do you even know this? He's like, I know. People tell me.
What are you talking about? Like, seriously, like Brad probably goes there like every other month. I mean, the president said he's gotten to know since he started writing his novels and stuff, and just the access he had when he was researching his books and everything. The fact that Bush Sr. really liked, and Barbara really, really liked Brad.
Yeah.
That's insane. That whole thing cracks me up to this day.
Well, what's funny is Brad was actually an intern for the president when he was in the Senate. Back when Senate Judiciary Committee, he was doing something. And so we actually walked up and Brad was like, Mr. President, I used to be your intern. And he was like, get out of here. And so they started talking. What was interesting, they were talking about what they were doing. And then another person on our party was trying to talk to him also about a family member who was in the armed services. He was conducting both conversations at the same time. And I was just like, I don't think he lost a step. I mean,
that is so great to hear, Chris, because truly, I can't, not to get political, everybody, you'll forgive me, but it's like, oh, he's old. It's like, well, all I know is the guy is getting shit done. And listen, I'm not saying that the country's in great shape, but I also don't think it's in horrible shape. And much like his former senior, President Obama, it's like, here's a shitbag on fire. Good luck running the country. And that's exactly what happened in 20. And I'm sorry. I think the guy takes care of business. That's me. And again, whatever, everybody. Good luck with your choices. And I'm not in any way trying to influence anyone. And please, good Lord, don't listen to me. But as this
next on Meet the Nation, we're going to have – oh, no, sorry. I thought we were on the wrong show for a minute. Okay.
Hey, man, I can do it. If Stephanopoulos can do it, we can certainly do it.
Meet the Press is next. But it was amazing that, like I said, he was carrying 2 conversations after sitting out in the rain, the pouring rain for like an hour and a half. A real trooper. and like had a full day at the office. Like it wasn't, so all these little things that they say, from my perspective, he was right on it. So
Hey man, Mike Jones says, of course, the Treasury oversees candy budgets, but they stiff the Defense Department. I don't know, man. God, I was trying to think. Yeah, what's a good candy for the Defense Department to hand out?
We walked around a little bit. We didn't catch everybody, but I will say the ones with the biggest sense of humor, Secret Service. They were hilarious. They were like making jokes, and I'm like, aren't you in charge of security? Like they were just busting chops. They were having a good time. I was like, look, more power to you.
What seriously, man, that is so great. I'm glad you did this.
Yeah,
I only have a couple people, including Brad, that have had the White House experience. So that's really amazing. I'm very
the staff was wonderful. It was a wonderful day. We thought we were going to get out without the rain, and it just hit us at the end. But nothing bad to say about that day.
There you go. Yeah. Are you a basketball fan?
Not at all.
Okay,
but that's the thing about suites. It's like you're not really there for the game. You're there for the experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like years ago, we did Casada organized. We went to a Mets game, and we did like a whole bunch of us were in a suite. And you spend so much time. Like me and CB went walking around to all because it was the new Citibank Park, and we were just walking around at the food kiosk to see what was available. Like it was like, oh, there's a game going on.
I've had that experience with the Chicago Bulls and the Blackhawks at United Center. No,
but it's nice. We get to hang out and have a nice meal and kind of decompress from the whole day and just be like, that was crazy,
insane, outstanding. That's so fantastic. Well, I'm thrilled. And you mentioned obviously you had Wonder Woman with you.
Yeah,
and of course, I Am Wonder Woman is also another recent drop, correct?
Yeah, that was June, I believe. So yeah.
Okay. What's coming up?
That you're allowed to say? Yeah, so no. In January when we go on our 10th, it's going to be I Am Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, excellent! Very cool.
Which is very timely. Like, I mean, it was funny. A few years ago, we were discussing which figure to do, and there was a big surge in anti-Semitism. And we were talking about who to do, and I forget who said it first. It might have been me, that we really should do Anne Frank.
Wow.
And everybody was a little iffy because they were like, well, we don't know if that, let's talk about a kid that dies at 14 or whatever it is. Not exactly great for kids. But I was like, we need to do it now. We need to talk about it now. And we put it out, and it did great. Like, it did phenomenal, and it was something we needed. And then right about now, where there's so much anti-Semitism going around now, we just seem to fall into these moments of finding figures that fit the moment. And, she went through a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of, misogyny when she was younger. So it's definitely a person for the moment. So that one works. And then I talk about timing again. Following her will be Jesse Owens, which is an African-American man taking on Nazis, which is another thing we're dealing with again. Like, who would think we still have Nazis around? Like, but
I hear you, man.
I mean, so it seems like we've kind of unfortunately picked good figures for the time.
Jesse's an amazing guy, Chicago guy, by the way.
Yeah,
along
not originally, but yes, he
well, he settled, and certainly post Olympics spent a lot of time here.
Yeah.
So no, we claim him in the best possible way. And Marty Glickman, great New York sportscaster, who was also on that infamous team. I had the pleasure of dealing with him many times back in my sports talk days.
Nice.
And he was an incredible guy.
Yeah.
And and another Jewish guy that obviously faced a lot of anti-Semitism. And, the American Bund, for people who don't know, that's the people that were sympathetic to Germany in the lead up to and even during World War II.
Yeah.
The Olympic coach of 36 that Jesse's coach and Marty's coach was this German that was, or forgive me, I don't know if he was German. He was certainly sympathetic though to the American Bund, and made Marty's life hell, and wasn't great to Jesse either. Despite Jesse's,
I mean, they pulled the two Jewish runners from the whatever that event is.
The relay. Yeah,
the
the
relay.
4-man relay. Yep.
And they still won. So, but
Yep.
yeah, it's sad that we still need to keep teaching these lessons. Our only hope, especially with these books, has been breaking that cycle. You know, we're still here, 50, 60 years later, 70 years later, we're still dealing with Nazis. We're still dealing with anti-Semitism. And it's like, we haven't learned our lessons. And it's that whole saying, those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And we're hoping that these books go out to the next generation and say, hey, this is not the way to conduct life. And,
yeah, these are great people, and they led great lives. And also the great thing about both you and Brad, you make it so relatable. I mean, it is, was it Turtle? Was it Lincoln that loved turtles? I forget.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it just little tidbits like that. And good Lord, Fred Rogers, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a superpower of being like Mr. Nice,
yes.
Well, there was Captain Nice back in the 60s, a bad TV show that William Daniels, the voice of Kit.
Look at your trivia.
So there is a Captain Nice. Well, if you ever needed a legacy, I would say Fred Rogers would fit that bill. What an incredibly great guy. And the more you learn about him, it's like just the word decent. And by the way, apolitically, just a great decent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He what's great is if you look in the book, I'll give you a little thing. He loved the number 143 because I love you is 1 letter, 4 letter, 3 letter. So in these books, I'm always hiding things. So on every spread, you will find the number 143 somewhere hidden on the page. Which we do that. I do that kind of stuff for the parents because we always hear that they have to read these books like 50 times to the kids. And I remember, like with my kids, it's like again, and you get bored as a parent reading it. So I try to give something a little, Easter egg for them to find. And like, all right, let's look for something. So like we always hide Brad in there, and we hide the number 27. My twin boys are in there. So we always have these things that we hide throughout the book. So, but he was like amazing. And that's our thing. It's funny when we talk about the TV show and about the books, you talk about TV shows for kids, they've got like characters that change into robots, or they have animals, or they have this and that. We've got like Winston Churchill, like that is not really going to be great for kids. So they're not going to be interested. So we always try to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting. It's sort of like that, leading them in with the fun and giving them the education on the back end. So my job is the fun, Brad is the education. So
I got you. Here's a little screen cap from Xavier Riddle.
Yep.
And now obviously the character on the left, clearly, a cipher for Brad.
Yes.
But Chris, when are we going to see you and Xavier Riddle, or have we already seen him?
Well, there's a couple of places. So in the opening sequence, the song in the beginning, there's a sequence where the characters all like the heroes go by on the wall. I am in one of those heroes. So like I'm always there on every episode. Obviously Brad's there as Brad, but then if you look at great-great-grandfather Riddle in a picture, that's Brad. But we actually this season created a kid character of me that will be roaming around in the backgrounds and doing things. So
okay.
It's I don't like, the other one is we always put my twins in every episode. We hide them somewhere. So that was sort of my thing. Brad wants to be the main character. I just want somebody in the background. So,
okay.
But it's good. It's fun. We get to do those fun little silly things. So,
well, I love truly that. And here's another screen cap of Fred Rogers hanging out in his little living room. We see the trolley, of course.
Yeah.
I like the little birdhouse there in the front, and the stoplight. Of course, we all remember that. Oh man,
yeah, that was the episode we actually got nominated for an Emmy by. So
no
that
kidding.
was the one we submitted.
Wow.
Yeah. So
have you guys won yet or no?
No, we went. It was last November, I believe, or December. Maybe it was December. It was announced in November and December. We went. So Brad and I said we're going. But there was this unknown couple who were producers for another show, Obama something or other, who we kind of knew at that point we were not winning. So we went for the experience, knowing full well that you can't beat the president and first lady.
So was this the daytime Emmys, or do they have children's Emmys?
So this last year was the first year they split it out. So this is children's programming Emmys.
Wow, who was
Yeah.
the host of the children's Emmys? Do you remember?
This one was Jack. What's the guy from 40 Rock? Jack Breyer.
Oh, from 30 Rock.
30 Rock. Jack Breyer.
Oh, yeah. No, I know who you're talking about.
Nicest guy in the universe.
Kenny. Yeah. McBriar. Yeah. And it might be Jack McBriar, actually. Yeah,
Whatever.
Funny as hell. No, that's perfect.
Very nice guy.
Buddy.
Yeah. So it was good. It was, it was a fun evening. We had fun. It was exciting to just see something that we did like on a lark, up there for an Emmy. So it was like fun.
That's amazing. And how many seasons now are you into Xavier Riddle? 3? 4?
So this is our second season, and we've just started. Well, not just started, but it'll start up in January. The first season, for some reason, went like 3 years. We had so many episodes, it just kind of carried through.
But that happens a lot in animation, as you know.
It's the PBS scheduling. That's the way they do the stuff. So,
so how many episodes did you make for that first season? Was it
just like 72?
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. 72, that's a lot.
Yeah. It's 72 characters, and then each show is 2 episodes. So
okay.
But they mix and match, and then we had a movie as well. So it all worked out. It was crazy. I mean, they still play them. They're available every day on YouTube and on pbskids.org. And it's crazy to know that your stuff is out there every day, even when you're not watching. So, but it's fun. It's good.
That's outstanding, man. And everyone loves your style and the way that you Eliopolous, if we will, to coin a phrase, these characters. Have you found any historical figure or celebrity a challenge to adapt into your style?
I mean, they're always a challenge just because you want to find the most iconic version of them. Sometimes the hardest ones are the ones who are very kind of plain looking. Like, you get Einstein, it's easy. Like you got the mustache, hair.
Yeah. Churchill. I mean, Churchill basically, always did look like a toddler.
Yeah. I know, right? He did.
I would like my pudding. I would like it now.
Yeah. He was definitely, the hard part was trying to make him heavier without making him look like an adult, if that makes sense. Because it's weird. It's hard to,
Sure. I got to see that episode. I'd love to. Does someone try to emulate the Churchill voice when they?
So we sort of have an edict from PBS that we try to match an accent when it's appropriate.
Certainly.
Some of them you got to be very careful with. You don't want to be, a stereotype or anything like that.
Right.
For British accents, we've had some actors who are either from Britain or have family there, which is fun to listen to a kid trying to do a British accent. It's hysterical sometimes.
Oh my God, even more so. That's true. It's likely just like Peanuts. They're casting children to do children's voices.
Yeah, we started early on. We decided that we were going to just have kids do it. We felt because our goalpost was Peanuts, so it was sort of like even our Brad character, the kid who played Brad. I picked him because he sounded like Linus, which ironically he then went on to play for all of these Peanuts shows that have been going on for the last few years. So they knew something too. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
We're coming up to listen, everybody loves Charlie Brown Christmas. I believe I'm either as old as that special or a year older or younger. I am literally Rudolph debuted on my literal birthday, December 2nd, 64. So I love the fact that that's still chugging along as I am. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think the Christmas special came out in 62, I think.
Oh, okay. So it is like 2 years older than me.
Yeah, I think 61, 62, somewhere in that range.
But that great Vince Guaraldi music. And I mean, it's so, as you know, Chris, I spent like a lot of time in broadcast radio and a lot of time in music stations where I had to play Christmas music.
Yeah.
And it is really hard for me. Luckily now I am so desensitized from it because you just hear those songs over and over again. And just like I'm sure in New York, here in Chicago, we've got a station that immediately November 1st starts playing Christmas music.
I have to admit to being that person. I came home and just put on the Peanuts. I have like a playlist.
Well, that's my exception. Is Vince Guaraldi's soundtrack to Charlie Brown Christmas? I'm like, that's just great jazz, man.
Yes,
it happens to be Christmas music. So
yeah, I mean, if you take out a couple of the like very Christmassy ones, they're not all that.
No, Linus and Lucy is just the great piano like masterpiece. I love Guaraldi. He's incredible. So I'm with you on all that.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, my favorite special is the Thanksgiving special, and I love the kid who played Peppermint Patty because she's got this great tomboy. Hey, Chuck. How you doing, Chuck? Me and Marcy.
Horse. Yeah. No, it's an amazing. I mean, look, I spent, that was the other great thing this year that I got to, I got invited up to the Schultz Museum above San Francisco. They were doing an exhibit on his influence on people today.
Yeah.
And they reached out and they asked if they could do a clip from Xavier Riddle, which we said yes. And then we're like, and if Chris could do a piece, that'd be great. And I was like, yeah.
Wow.
So I did a watercolor of the Xavier Riddle cast, and then I put Snoopy and Woodstock in there, sent it off, and then we figured out that we could do a book tour for John Lewis when it came out and go out there and roll it into an event at the Schultz Museum. So I went up there, and there it was. It was my piece was sitting right next to a peanut strip on the wall in the museum, next to a Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes. So like after I picked myself up off the floor, it was amazing. I did an event. Judd Winnick and his family came up to hang out, and then
that's San Francisco.
And Schultz's wife Jeannie came out, and she actually took us out to his studio.
Wow.
So Judd and I were like totally like kids in a candy shop. We were like touching everything. We were like, oh my God. It was amazing. It was another amazing day. Then they took us to this ice skating rink that they had built.
Yes.
They took us up to his studio, his original studio up there. But it was an amazing day. So like this year has been like, I'm done. Like every other year following can't be any good.
I'm seriously, man, I am so happy for you. We were talking, setting this up last week and everything, and really, way to go. I mean, truly, and same goes for Brad as well. I know. And really, too, Brad didn't have to do this. He was doing fine making his novels.
Yeah.
His historic novels and his crime novels and procedurals, everything that he does. But this is just such a great little niche for both of you. And no, it's I've got two young, actually three now that I got to do the head count right, and likely when you come on tour, I'm gonna have to pick up the latest books for the kids and everything because it's great, and it's such a great way to introduce history to kids, very readable. I mean, I immediately as a little kid I was fascinated by history and biographies and things. I really got into it, but this is even younger and better because I mean I was a little it was more middle grades and junior high and things that I really started reading that stuff more. But this is great because it's a fun presentation, it's very relatable, and you get the important basics in there surrounded by a lot of fun facts about these people as well.
It's definitely a world away from where I came from. Like I was the lettering guy at in comics for the longest time. I was like on everybody's, big crossover event. And now it's funny. I have people who still come up to me now, like at conventions, like at the last New York convention. They're like, what are you doing these days?
Sure.
Like no idea. Like there's nothing like, because, once you fade out of the comics world, those people who only care about comics just think you died or something.
Sure.
I'm like, well, let's do a series of books, got a TV show, and I'm like, really? Wow, who knew? So
that's crazy. Well, also too, it was a fun, slow transition because while you were lettering all those great Marvel books and the like, and Savage Dragon, of course, with Eric, but you also were doing things like Herbie, which was a lot of fun to get. Well, shame on me. Herbie's a side character.
Well, Franklin, I got you where you're going.
Yeah, but my brain is scrambled. Franklin Richards, absolutely, man. And Herbie being his little sidekick and stuff, but son of a genius, Franklin Richards. Of course, your wonderful, even though it was just a one shot, as I remember it, Cowboy that you did for the comic
I'm
book
doing some work on it now. Nate and I are we got the rights back, so we're sort of working on it again.
Great to hear. And that's what I wondered, Chris, because you do make these. How many IM books do you make a year? 3?
So it's varied over time. It was 3 or 4, depending. Sometimes it was 5 because we would do 1, 2, and 2. And then right when the pandemic kicked in, we were talking about like we need to have more product. We need to grow our line so we can have more of a space in bookstores and online. And so they were like, "Hey, Chris, do you think you could do like 6 books in the span of like the next year?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And what it turned out to be in about a year, I did 9 books total, which was insane. Like I burnt out like really quick because I was just losing my mind. We've kind of cut back to 3 again. And then I usually have one of my own books that I write and draw.
So I was wondering.
So I'm doing about 4 a year, and then trying to do more because I'm always like I'm never satisfied. I got to keep doing more and more. It was funny. A friend of mine was asking, like, "I don't see you go out anymore. Why don't I see you anymore?" And I think I scared him because they said, "I finally get to do what I want to do. I don't have a lot of time left, so I have to get as much done as possible before I keel over." So I'll probably keel over from doing all the work, but I just have to keep doing it. Like I want to get it all done before I go. So I've been working like a maniac, and
Well, I'm glad that there is time for you to carve out some creator own stuff. Now you said obviously sometimes the comic book people aren't aware of the kids' books.
Yeah.
How about the reverse where I've read a bunch of IM books and do you go, "Hey, here's Franklin Richards, here's Cowboy."
It's funny. Well, Cowboy, I don't want to give to kids too much because it tends to skew a little bit older. It's more probably of a teenager read. Oh God, Patrick's on now. But it's weird because a lot of people know me as a cartoonist or know me from these books or the TV show and don't know about the comic book work. Sure. So it's funny. The other day I was talking to Mackenzie Cadenhead, my first editor on Franklin, and she's like, "Would you ever want to do more?" And I'm like, I would like to do it, but I don't know if I would have the time to do it. It was a lot of fun. I pulled out, she made me think about it. I pulled out the books. I'm like, how did I letter like 30 books a month and write and draw like a series? I don't know how I did all of that, but younger days, I guess.
Exactly. Well, and I'm sure at the moment, and forgive me for imprinting this on you, but I would also think as a guy who broke in as a letterer, hey man, you want to write? We know you're an artist. Do you want to write and draw, and especially your style? That had to be a thrill doing those books when they were first offered to you.
Yeah, well, the Franklin stuff, it was interesting. I was up in the office and they were just coming up with a thing. I think it was called Marvel Age.
Yes,
like it was a kids line.
Yes,
that they were planning to do.
Sure.
And I was sitting in CB's office. And I'm like, well, I got a great idea for you. If you want to do a kid's book, it's Franklin Richards. And I started to tell him, I was like literally pitching him on the spot. I didn't know I was going to come in and do that. And in the middle of the conversation, he picks up the phone and makes a call. And I'm like, holy crap, I totally bored him to death. And he was calling David Gabriel of sales to say, we got another book for the line.
Oh, that's so great, man.
It wasn't even like they came to me. I just pitched them on the spot. And Mackenzie was in the room. And then he was like, well, you're editing. So... And then off we went. So
that's excellent, man.
It was that quick.
I remember that Marvel Age line because Mike. That was like some of Mike Norton's first Marvel work.
Yeah.
It was in Mike's style.
Yeah,
and everything.
They did Marvel Adventures. I think they did Marvel Adventures line as well. Yes. I think I wrote a Fantastic Four series at one point.
And did you do a Pet Avengers story too?
We did 3 series of Pet Avengers, which are back now. I guess it's Marvel Unleashed. I think it's called.
Yes, it is called.
Nobody called me up. Nobody asked. But so I was sort of. I think my problem was I was too far ahead of the curve. Like I kept saying we need to do some more books for all ages for kids. And they went, yeah. And then they didn't sell. They sold well enough to publish them, but they didn't like really make earth-shattering noise because it was going to the comic book market. It was going to stores where you're not finding the kids. And then, Dave Pilkey came along and Raina Telgemeier came along, and they put out graphic novels for kids that sold in the millions. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, we got to do graphic novels. And I had done my 2 graphic novels before that. So like, it just sort of, I missed my timing. I wasn't good with the timing. So.
No, I understand. What's that?
I said, now they're huge. Now kids' graphic novels are doing great. Well,
the first time I had heard about Dogman, and it's like, all right. And they're like, well, it's a kid's graphic novel. Okay. And it's, and I even forget now, is it the Wimpy? It's a Captain Underpants. His favorite, like, is that his favorite character? I forget where Dogman first came from, but I know.
So Captain Underpants was first. Dogman came. Now there's, what is it called? Cat Kid is the newest one. I should run over and grab it off the shelf. Dave, who I've met once or twice, sweetest guy you'd ever want to meet. He parodied us in the newest book. You know what? I'm going to show you just because.
Please. Oh, that sounds great, man. No,
this is comic book related. So he's doing.
Right, I'm zooming in, everybody. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, Cat Kid.
So comic book influences. So he does. Here's the nicest thing. He dedicated to Brad and I and our families, and so he did a little drawing in there.
Very nice.
But let's see. There's a parody in here where he talks about what's the dude's name? Who was the guy who wanted to ban books in the 50s?
Wortham? Yeah, Dr. Wortham. Yeah, Brendan.
I don't know. It's in here somewhere. I'll find it after we go off the air. I'm sure.
Of the Innocent, everybody.
So he did a parody of our books with him on the cover of like who are the most awful people. So all right, I can't find it now. I'll have to show it to you.
No problem. That's excellent, man. No, seriously, you and Judd with Hilo and the spinoff series he has from Hilo.
Yeah,
this is so great, and I'm so glad because you guys are so talented. And yeah, you went where the audience was, and you're right. That was the problem with that initiative of the last 20 or so years from DC and Marvel, where it's like, all right, we're putting them in the direct market because that's where we go. And it's like, no, man, the game's over here. And that's fine. And there's room for both. And I am thrilled because we are raising a generation. By the way, Uncle Buck here. I am not.
I was going to say, where are your kids, pal?
But in general, the comic community is raising a group of first readers that beyond illustrated first reader books are discovering comic books.
Yeah.
This is good. This is great.
Well, that's why we did the Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman series, was just sort of like, we love, like, again, if you look at today's comic books, they are not made for kids. Like, you can't bring this, a 10-year-old, the latest Batman issue or the latest whatever. Number one, continuity is crazy and they won't get into it. And second, it's more adult. I mean, as a comic industry, we're now focusing on the 30 to 50-year-old, 60-year-old people. We've given up, So now what they've done is they're starting to, at least, is to outsource product to mainstream publishers to do. So graphic novels where they know their market, they know how to reach the kids, and then the comic book people know comics. So that was great when we did the Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Like, DC didn't have to talk to us about how to do this. Like, we knew everything about them. We knew how to tell the story. I mean, the hardest part was to try and make Batman's origin acceptable for a 5-year-old.
Sure.
Having your parents gunned down is not easy to get into a book. So we really over that.
Yeah, and especially, unfortunately, in today's environment. God, throwing it back real fast to Mr. Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
I was too young when he did it, but I know I've seen in documentaries and stuff the way he handled the Bobby Kennedy assassination.
Right.
And it was really in a very, because he's like, the adults around these poor kids are talking about it, and it probably does scare them and confuse them.
Yeah.
And hey, ladies and gentlemen, here's Mr. Rogers to explain it all. And
Well, he did that. He did talking about death. He talked about divorce. Like, I mean, he took on these things in a very generous way, and you know, I don't know how he did it. Like, I don't know how you make that palatable. Like, I know we tried to do Anne Frank, but we also did the same thing. It was sort of like, how do you explain anti-Semitism? How do you explain, you know, a 14-year-old dying, you know, because a country hated them? You know, like it's a hard. These things are hard things to deal with. So we do take a lot of guidance from him in all of our books, and even on the TV show, just in general. But you know, but now we have to just get the kids into comics.
well, again, I think you guys are helping pave the way.
We're trying.
Carrie says, hey, my kids love all the graphic novels. There's still plenty of room for more. And Rudy says, my son loves Dave Pilkey books, the Hilo books, Brad and Chris's books. It's like they all came together in this podcast.
Yeah, I will. So I'll give you a bit of trivia. I'm going to call Judd out. So his first book is named Hilo, the Boy Who Crashed to Earth.
Yes.
And originally it was called The Boy Who Fell to Earth. I guess it's based on the David Bowie.
Sure.
Thing. And they didn't want to do that for possible copyright. He goes, what else shall I call it? And I just wrote, it was me, Brad, and Judd on an email chain. And I just said, it should just be The Boy Who Crashed to Earth. So I gave him the title of the first book. So he owes me $1 million. But that's what's great about it. You know, the great thing about comics is we are a community. And for the most part, everybody in the industry looks out for each other and we take care of each other. There are obviously some outliers. We know them.
Sure.
But for the most part, we all try to take care of each other. And I found that it kind of extends now into the publishing market. Those of us in that world right now are all looking out for each other and all taking care of it. Like, it's not a competition. It's sort of like we can all make this better. So the graphic novels, you want to get kids involved. I love them as kids. I loved comics. I love cartoons.
Yeah.
Like, I want to keep the industry going. And so, you know, I hate to say it this way, but the Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman were gateway drugs. You know, we were trying to like lead them in and say, look, this is good stuff. Come and see and read more. So, and it worked out well. I mean, the book sold well, and it's fun to, you know that these kids are learning about these heroes.
The great
people who created them.
And the people who create, absolutely, and the people who create them, certainly in your books. Yeah. What I love is when we were little kids, we had Saturday morning cartoons were likely our initial drug into the culture. And then thankfully there were great books to go to and stuff. And now even more so, but instead of it being the monthly output from DC and Marvel, it is books like your guys' stuff that I think will, you know, kind of get them hand in hand. Because my nieces that I was thinking of, and I keep forgetting about their little brother who's 4 years old and right there with them. They love superheroes, but they learned from them from movies and from cartoons.
Yeah.
And they love dressing up and stuff. So no, they know, like, Uncle John, tell us another story about Supergirl. Sure. Sit down.
Yeah, I've got a few.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's great. No, and this is great. And I think it might even be easier. My greatest thrill, and I've said this before on Word Balloon, was when I was like 7 years old. We took a trip to Wisconsin, and I forget what hotel gift shop I was in. And one of those big Treasury edition books of the 70s of Shazam, of Captain Marvel. And my dad saw it and went, hey, that's Captain Marvel. I read that thing when I was a kid. Do you want this? And I'm like, yes, please. That would be great. And we sat down and read it. He's like, this, and it was mostly reprints of stuff from the 40s and early 50s. And he's like, oh my God, there's Dr. Savannah. Yeah, that's his bad guy. I know that guy. And it was so awesome that I was bonding with my father, as I'm sure the adult nerds that love Word Balloon are able to do with their children. So no, it's great that you guys are doing this stuff. And again, without spoiling, obviously there's another universe that's omnipresent that you seem to have some connections with, Chris. Is it possible we might see some Marvel books?
I'm hoping.
Okay.
We're trying, a lot of this stuff comes down to stuff we're not in control of, big corporations. And
yes,
we've had some success in the past. We did a Walt Disney, we did a Jim Henson. They let us use the characters.
Hey, that's the same company. Why not?
Yeah. So I'm hopeful at some point we're going to reach an agreement to something. because I would love to. I mean, it's so funny. It's because it's my two families. It's, my Marvel family. I've been with them. In February, I will be with Marvel for 35 years.
Wow.
God help me.
Jesus, Chris, that's fantastic.
I'm so old. And then, and then my publishing family, and I want to bring them together because I think we need to sit down, break bread, and have Thanksgiving together and make something great. Hopefully someday it happens. I stay out of all that stuff. I let them, the people that deal with that stuff deal with it, and then when they say we're ready to go, I start drawing. So
all right, my only editorial no would be I don't want an IMCB Cebulski book. That's just me.
Come on.
I love CB. I'm totally blowing him shit. Are you kidding? Seriously, man. That guy's done me so many solids over the years that I've known him. I love CB. I'm totally kidding. And Joe's always great too.
Chester is my guy. I mean,
funnier name. That's the only reason why I picked that CB is it sounds funnier.
They are all my friends. Like I said, we all. I mean, look, if you look in the back of I Am Mr. Rogers, it's dedicated to Nick Lowe. I mean, these.
Hey, that's great. Marvel editor, wonderful Marvel editor. Absolutely. Not to be confused with the Britpop.
Yes,
superstar that gave us "Cruel to Be Kind" when I was a freshman in high school.
He can sing, but I don't think he's that good. But yeah, so like look, these are all my friends, and
yeah,
I'd love to do it. In the back of these, the Superman, the Batman, the Wonder Woman, we also put a spotlight on the creators, and we wanted to make sure that they got a shout out.
Yes,
including some of the people, like if you look in the back of Superman, it's John Byrne all the way through Jim Lee, and bless you. Oh, you're sneezing, John. I can see it. You muted, but I sure saw it. And then, but like what's great is even in Wonder Woman, we Linda Carter and Gal Gadot, Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot. Yeah.
We put Gail Simone in there. We put Colleen Durant. Like we made sure that the people who created it also get recognition for these great characters. So I'd love to do that for Marvel, but so we'll see. I mean, I'd love to do anything. I mean, I'd love to do Star Wars. I'd love to do Back to the Future. I'd love to do Indiana Jones. I'd love to do a billion other properties. But like I said, I can only do so many books a year, so that factors in as well. But
let's hope, as you and I are Star Trek fans, I Am Leonard Nimoy would be a great book.
Star Trek is another one I'd love to do.
Okay. Port George, and George's sadly very interesting life beyond everything. Yeah,
he did a comic on it, didn't he? Win like an Eisner or something like that.
Yeah. Steve Scott, who used to be with IDW, I know, was very involved with the graphic novel. I mean, George has been great telling his story, especially growing up in the internment camp, as he unfortunately had to during World War II. And there's the play Allegiance, but I do know there's a graphic novel that adapted George's story as well. No, he's an amazing guy. He's
I got my Star Trek thing. Was it last year? I did a story in the number 400 for IDW. So I got the classic crew, which was great. And I got to do the movie time period. So I actually told the story of Sulu taking off with the Excelsior from the Enterprise. So
wow,
a fun little story. So
that is excellent, man. I was bugging you again as we were setting this up, and of course I can't help it. As you know, I think about Star Trek every day.
Oh God,
I absolutely admit that. I'm not proud of it.
Okay.
But it's just, I don't know, man. They're as Grandma would say about her soap opera, they're my stories, man. Don't take my stories away.
I know.
But I'm worried. Well, I'm not worried, but I know they're going to pull back just because of financial issues at Paramount. And they're still going to make Star Trek, but they really went balls to the wall when they created their streaming channel, and we really were like not waiting more than maybe a month and a half between Star Trek shows. And I really think we still got the last season of Discovery to come. Prodigy is at Netflix, but don't kid yourself, kids. That's just because it's made. And as much as Paramount didn't want to run it, thankfully Netflix does. But I will be, you never know. I mean, whatchamacall, Young Justice was something that everyone thought, okay, that's it, we're done. And the fans, much like Family Guy, it's like, no, we want more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very happy for Greg Weisman and company that, and I'll even say, and this is me saying this is not Chris saying this, that aesthetically, I wasn't crazy about a lot of the changes to the heroes of the New 52. I didn't need the high bunch collar. Yeah. Or well, pouches certainly, but the V-neck collar and everything on Superman. The redesign on Superman was new Coke. It's new Coke Superman. Sorry. But
just like everything else, you got to do it a different way and then bring it back to the original, and it makes everybody happy.
Well, you're right about that. I mean, that was the thinking, I know, with both the Reign of the Supermen and also Batman and Nightfall and everything in the post, Nightfall situation.
No.
So no, I hear you. But yeah, Star Trek.
I'm like, I gotta say, I loved the last season of Picard. I thought they did a phenomenal job, and I really do. I hope they do put Terry Matalas on a Jerry Ryan led show. I mean, I think that's aces. I think you got a winner there.
I agree with you. Well, and also, God, when I guess more so. Well, maybe I felt this way too when Voyager ended, because then they went to Enterprise and they went the prequel route. But It's like you've got all these great actors, not only the ones that we saw in season 3, but bring the Navister and whomever wants to do it. I think Cole Meany is the only one, and not with any malice, has said, I don't know if I'm really interested in going back to O'Brien. That's all wrapped up. But Jesus Christ, man, all the Deep Space Nine characters, all the Voyager characters.
They see each other all the time, like at these conventions, so you could easily bring them back. But like, I think what was great too is that you had these fully formed characters. They were right into keeping Seven and oh dear, and I totally forgot her name.
Oh, Raffi,
her now number 1, but whatever.
Right.
I think Jack is a fun character, like that arrogant kind of young who needs to be put in his place. And then, like you said, there is room for this nostalgia, bringing in, former Voyager characters. You got Tim Russ, who was already on. You bring back some of the other characters. I mean, there's so much there.
Garrett Wong, obviously, Harry Kim. Anyone who would want to do it, and of course they've been doing it. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Lower Decks.
Yeah.
All right, but the last season just wrapped up.
Yeah.
And and they've had
Duncan McNeil, I think is
yes, Nick Locarno. That was fantastic.
But I love. I mean, you've thrown some fun stuff for the longtime fans, but like that was the thing about the Picard series, was that they threw in stuff for the longtime fans, but also it was a fun story. It was a unique story. It definitely was a whodunit. Like you were like, they're not going to do the Borg. They just can't do the Borg. And you're like, it's got to be the Changelings. Like what? Like the whole big thing. Like, was it going to be Odo at the end? And boom, it just like kind of threw
that is my only small quibble with the show, was they kind of using the Changelings as the Borg stooge. Kind of bummed me out, because like, no, the Changelings almost took over, the Alpha Quadrant. It's
like, if you think about it, though,
like did, and it's like, hey man, no, these guys were tough.
But I like that idea, though, that they are so far down, they've been defeated so far down that they've lost all sense of honor. They just are out to kill. Like they just want to destroy. Like there was no like qualms. They'll do whatever it takes. But it was also a good, connection to all of the series. Like it was like they pulled all of the series together.
Yes.
Into one show and said, this is the culmination of it. And what's great is like it ends there, and then now we can start all fresh and new.
100%. Even that Easter egg at the end with Q even showing up, and it's like, hey man, I could screw with you just like I did your dad. I mean, it left the door open, I think, in a lot of positive ways. I absolutely agree with you.
But so I'm with you. I don't think about it every day, but I'd sure love to do a Star Trek book. I mean,
and I hope so. And I'm really glad IDW let you come in for 400, because truly, so many of my
let me come in.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, it's actually it was wonderful. Heather Antos just reached out.
Hey, that's awesome. Good for Heather.
Well, I done some work for her with Star Wars, so like she was like, "You want to do another Star thing?"
That's great to hear, though. No, honestly, hey man, I give her a ton of credit, and I really want her to come on Word Balloon at some point.
Yeah.
Because I really have tremendous respect for the talent pool that she pulled together at Star Trek.
Yeah.
Jackson and Colin are absolutely killing it. Cantwell's killing it. Guggenheim is killing it. Yeah. I mean, of my friends and everything, and it's just, and yourself. I mean, it's like, this is great. This is what we wanted. And JK doing the beautiful painted covers and the interiors when he does the interiors.
Yeah.
Everybody, is it the Timoy brothers? No, not the Timoy brothers. I forget the
You cover
brother.
this more than I do. Like I'm not.
The Tiptons. I was going to give the Timoys credit, but it's the Tiptons that are great Star Trek writers. Mike Johnson, fantastic writer who came from the JJ office, and it's like I don't know about you, man. I mean, I liked the 2009 movie, and then man, Star Trek Into Darkness was just a mess.
Yeah.
Beyond was a little bit better, but I'm like, you got Idris Elba. Why would you cover him in alien makeup? It's like you got one of those beautiful leading man actors out there who just oozes charisma, and it's like now we're gonna make him a lizard. Okay.
It's funny. The third was what was the third? What was Into Darkness? Is that the third one?
No, Into Darkness the second. Beyond.
Beyond.
Yes.
Beyond. Interesting enough, a childhood friend, the friend who got me into comic books.
Wow.
In high school, like I wasn't like I got them as kids, and I kind of put them away. I fell more into Peanuts and that stuff. When we were in high school, his older brother handed his comics down to my friend. That older brother was the co-writer of Beyond.
Oh wow!
So it's like there's all these connections in my life that So and Mike is my friend is a children's book author now, and he actually did a book called The Boys in the Back Row. It's a middle grade novel about us. Like it's sort of like
fun.
It's based on our lives, but it is fiction, but it's based on us. So we still have this connection. Like it goes round robin. So I have a connection to Star Trek somehow through him.
I love it.
So
that's awesome. Have you met any of the cast at conventions?
I don't think so. I don't remember doing it, but I also don't seek out they're usually off in like a
autograph row. Yeah.
And I always feel like I don't want to bother anybody. Like you get enough all day. Like I know, like I sit at a convention all day long talking to people, and I'm like you can hear my voice goes so easily now. And you get tired by the end of the day. And then I got Eric Larson staying with me, so then it becomes a whole other thing. But I can only imagine these poor people are like taking pictures, signing autographs, talking to people all day long. They don't need one more guy coming up and going, "I love your work." So I kind of stare.
You never know though, because Ron Glass, who of course was famous for Barney Miller, Detective Harris, but also was a big important part of Firefly and Serenity as well.
Yes, true.
So it's me, Chuck Dixon, and Ron Glass at an Orlando FX Con back in the day, and Chuck gets the bravery to ask him, and he's like, "Ron, you're not a has-been. The fuck are you doing here?" Basically, he didn't swear. I swear. Yeah. And he goes. And Ron goes, "Hey, man, these are great." He goes, "First of all, I need," and again, not being a homeowner, like window fixtures or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whatever he needed for his house. And he's like, "I do this for a weekend. People tell me how much they love my work. I don't have to dip into my acting money. I can use this money to pay for the home improvements." He's like, "It's a win-win."
Yeah. And
I'm like, that is beautiful. And so I waited, and when, obviously it was prior to that, we were in an elevator together, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, Ron, I know we're off the floor, but I mean, I just love Barney Miller. It's one of my absolute favorite shows. So can I be the 10 millionth, if not more, fan?" He goes, "I never get tired of it. It's great."
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. I always feel that with the conventions, this is money for them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take anything like any.
I see what you're saying. Yes, it is. Time is money. They've got things to do. Minimum, if not more, obviously.
I mentioned before that I took my kids to a Walking Dead convention when they were in high school. Robert was sweet as hell and like got us in, and then made us take a picture of ourselves, and then texted it to all of the actors that were there at the convention and said, "Look out for this guy and take care of him, because without him, there's no me. Without me, there's no you." And
that is beautiful.
Which is BS, but
no, I understand, but still, that's
very nice. And like we would go up, and like the actors to a fault were like, "Let's take a picture," and I'm like, "Let me pay you," and they're like, No, and you're Robert's friend. And I'm like, No, this is your business. Like, you're not here for freebies. You're here to make money, And I always see it sometimes. A lot of these guys, they're like sports players, like they're football players who only get a limited time to make their money. Make the money while you can. So I didn't want to intrude on that stuff. I would throw money at them and say, then give it to charity. I don't care, whatever, because I always feel like they're on the clock. It's their job. So, but to a fault, they were all super nice. Stephen Yoon and I had a conversation about comic books for like a half hour. My kids were blowing a gasket. The poor guy was like, nobody was really up at his booth at that point. And he and I were just talking about, he loves Savage Dragon. So we're talking Savage Dragon.
Oh, that's great.
And my kids were like, what the hell's going on? We did, it was funny. We got, Robert had said, is there anybody you haven't met? And I was like, oh, Norman Reedus. We haven't seen Norman yet. And they're like, he's like, hold on. Next thing you know, Norman's manager comes up and grabs us and takes us down. In this convention, there was like tents in this, almost like a parking garage. And his little tent was there, and there was a line that went so far back, I couldn't see the end of it. And they brought us to the front of the line, and we were waiting, and they were like, hold on, he's having lunch. And like, he's got to have his food. So Robert's like, where is he? And I'm like, he's having lunch, leave him alone. He texts Norman and says, get out there, my friend's out there. Poor Norman comes out, he's like wiping his mouth. He's like, dude, I'm like, I'm so sorry. This was not what I asked for. And but he was great to my kids. They took a picture together. I was like, I don't need a picture. They took a picture. He gave us the picture for free, which, you know, he was charging good money for that.
Oh, yeah, several hundred, I'm sure.
But they were all so nice. But I felt bad because like this is making that money time. Like I gotta put in a new, you know, air conditioning unit. This pays for it.
You know, I get it, and like I said, it's great. And thankfully, most of this, I would say 99% of the celebrities are happy to be there. And really, goddamn, Jerry O'Connell from Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Rebecca Romaine is his wife.
Mm-hmm.
She has a table. He comes with her, and all he did, like Mitch at Terrificon could have given him a table as well, right next to her. But instead, he is working the line as people are waiting to meet Rebecca.
Awesome.
How you doing? I'm Jerry. And it was so great. Me and my buddy Chuck, who is just like you are for Eric at conventions, Chuck's my wingman.
Right.
And we're just sitting in the green room, and Jerry just maybe one of us looked at him. I have no idea. But he walks up and he's like, how you doing? I'm Jerry. And we're like, yeah, we know, man. We've been watching you since Stand By Me, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've known you since you're 8, you know.
Yeah, for real, man. Oh, this is good. Now, Chris wants us to recommend, and you can do New York and I can do Chicago. If we went to dinner after a con, would it be a Greek person? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted recommendations. I'm going to give you one anyway, and I'm sure Chris can give you a good New York recommendation. Now, first of all, both in Chicago and New York, 8 million diners between both cities, owned by Greeks, run by Greeks. And they're just diners, chicken salad, your standard diner fare. But go to a Greek diner because you'll get good service and good food. But as far as actual Greek food, I'm ready with one if you're not ready with one.
I don't have a name of a place, but I guess he's asking if we would go out to dinner, we would go to a Greek place. Yeah.
Sure.
Why not?
But I'm saying, I want to extend it. And if you have a Greek, like Manhattan, like restaurant where you're like, oh no, they have amazing Greek food.
I don't leave the house much, so I don't have any good recommendations. I mean, there's a local joint around here. It's all Greek to me, of course, is the name.
And also as Chris points out, yes, I have friends in Astoria, and it was a pleasure riding on the subway and hearing Greek on the subway as we're all
crazy,
going to
right?
Astoria and stuff. And
I was born in Astoria, so like,
there you go, man.
Yeah, I lived there for like 10 months. We used to go back every week to go see my grandmother, who would cook Greek food. So like that was better than any restaurant you could go to. It was going to have,
Did you pronounce it Yaya or Yaya as they do in My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
No, it's Yaya.
Yeah, that's how I did too.
Yeah, it's a pronunciation. The emphasis is on the first syllable.
Right. Yeah, but for some reason on My Big Fat Greek Wedding movies, it's Yaya, and it's like, well, that's kind of weird. I should ask
the Italian actors
and Jewish actors,
Patone, right?
Absolutely. Lainey Kazan kills it as the mother.
Yeah.
She's a nice Jewish girl. So what do you never know. No, she's terrific. Why was I
Where
going?
would you go if
I'm
I'm going
happy
to Chicago in January, where are you taking me?
if you really want, I mean, the good news is you're going to be in the suburbs, and there are good Greek restaurants around the burbs. I just went to one actually last Friday night. But for the city, Greektown is this great area. It's just south of the United Center, but it's in that kind of area where the Bulls and the Blackhawks play. But I would say you got to go to the Greek islands because that's your classic, and you're getting really good, food that's close enough to homemade.
Right.
But yeah, man, no, I was in Niles, and there's a great place that I cannot remember the name of, but I know exactly where it is. They kind of upgraded. It was a kind of actually, if you were conked on the head at the Greek islands and brought to this place, you'd think you were in the same restaurant. Their old decor was very similar, but they've kind of upgraded and upscaled.
Good.
And the food, I mean, I'm a Greek food snob. The food's amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It has to be good. It has to be.
Absolutely. And then and in fact, my standby when C2E2 happens, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, we've got 8 people that are going to want dinner at 7:00 on Friday night. Good luck. And it's like, I'll go to Miller's Pub. It's on Wabash in downtown Chicago. It's a great little restaurant. It's been there forever. And it was created by Greeks. And I love telling people like Rucka and Brubaker and Jen Van Meter, who love crime comics and crime novels. It was one of those classic sneak joints that sold food on top, but was a gambling parlor in the bottom.
Nice.
And just like in the Sting, when they set up the horse place in the Sting, that's exactly what Miller's Pub was like. So no, it even has like kind of a great little
history to it.
Yeah, a little bent nose history to it. So yeah, man, that's fine. Oh, there we go. Chris knows Mykonos. No, Chris, that's not the place that I was describing, which is an excellent, very close to the place I went to earlier and stuff. But yeah, I'm telling you, man. Oh, that's hilarious. And then Orion, what is this all about?
We alienated any non-Greeks.
Yeah, you gotta rewind on.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you just mentioned it. I was thinking about so Saturday I have to. I'm flying down to Fort Lauderdale for an event for one day. So I'm flying down in the morning and I'm flying home at night. So my wife was like, "Hey, on your way home, why don't I call and order the local Greek place and have like food to take out?" So I'm having Greek food on Saturday night.
Yay! Yeah, that's great to hear. Now, is your wife Greek or is she?
No, she's Italian and Irish. So she doesn't know whether to drink too much or eat too much. So sorry, bad joke. I'm a little Irish, so give me a break.
Come on, man. No, that's classic.
Mom's side is English, Irish, German, and Scottish. So I've got that. That's why the brown hair and the complexion. So blue eyes.
My oldest cousin is like my older brother. He married a German lady, and so his kids are half German and half Greek. And it's so great that the wife is like, "No, I actually like Greek food." It's like, well, that's good, man. So that's hilarious. Oh yeah, and Rudy's right. Another great diner chain here in Chicago, Omega. Yes, excellent stuff. Rudy knows. Rudy was in Evanston, Illinois. No, yeah, he was in Evanston, around Northwestern University. Ran one of the comic stores over there. Good dude. There you go, everybody. All right, so we got our Greek food. Hey, truly, man, when you're on the tour, if you have time,
I want to
for a meal.
Once I get the word what it is, I'll let you know.
Yeah, man.
Unfortunately, it may be one of those things where I do an event and they fly me out that night to Cincinnati to do the next day, or maybe fly me out in the morning. If they fly me out in the morning, we might be able to do something. So, but
that would be wonderful. Orion, you got to know Chris Eliopolous, and I didn't. Something was wrong with my computer, so my description is just Chris's name. But he asked, "Why does my thumbnail look like one episode of Xavier Riddle in the Secret Museum?" Because, my friend, this is the co-creator of Xavier Riddle and the Secret Museum, and let's throw up some pictures because Chris Eliopolous did the character designs for Xavier, and of course, in addition to that, he and Brad Meltzer have been doing these amazing I Am biographies. The latest of which, I Am Mr. Rogers, drawn by Chris Eliopolous. So.
And not only do I design all the characters, but I am co-creator and executive producer. Thank you very much. I mean, come on, don't bring me down. I don't,
Hey, man, again,
whatever.
We are very
Look,
we that know you are very proud of you, and
it's so funny because I know that I'm the lettering guy that everybody remembers on, well, it's funny because you look back at my credits and it's like, people bring up comics from like 1989, 1990, and they're like, sign this. And I'm like, man, it's been around a long time.
Wow.
So
that is crazy. Do you remember the first title and how many titles they gave you initially? If you can remember what those original ones were.
Originally, I was on staff, and so I was in the production department, and they moved me up to lettering department. I went to school. I learned typography, so I sort of had that instinct there. They brought me into the lettering department. I moved up pretty quick, and in the lettering department, what you do is basically try to mimic the other letterers to do corrections. And so I was doing cover copy. I was doing that kind of stuff. And so my first credit ever was in an issue of Marvel Age, because I was doing paste-up work. My first lettering credit was over Mark Texera on like a 5 or 6 page backup in a Punisher annual. But so what I would do is I would be on staff and I would do corrections during the day. And then they started to feed me because early 90s, it was like, let's just put everything out. Like, let's put 1,000 books out. We need more hands. Chris, take some books home. So I would letter overnight. Wow. And then go back in the office in the morning, turn in pages, and then go back and forth. So it reached a point where I was making more money lettering at night than I was making during the day in the office. And so it was just, okay, now it's time to go. So then I left. So I remember Terry Kavanaugh. I don't remember the book. But Terry Kavanaugh had offered me a book, and I literally went, awesome, this means I could go freelance. And he went, no, I'm taking it back. You can't leave. But he was joking, and I took it and went away. But I've done so many books. People bring stuff up, and I'm like, did I work on that? So thousands on thousands.
Well, Orion did not make the initial connection, and he just wants you to know he is a fan of Xavier Riddle. I've since he's bought, I guess there are Xavier. I would imagine there are Xavier books, aren't there?
There were. We came out with a few, basically, adaptations of the episodes. So.
Sure. Did you do them, Chris, or did you farm those out?
They were screen grabs. So they would pull the.
Okay. Sure. Okay, yeah. Great.
Yeah,
no, that's awesome, man. And he says he has the episodes too. Sweet. Well, there you go, Orion. Hey, I consider myself very fortunate that I know the co-creators and executive producers of Xavier Riddle, Chris and Brad.
Yeah.
And it's great too, because we all became friends individually rather than, oh yeah, this is my buddy Chris, he does X, or this is my buddy Brad, he does X. So that delights me even more. And really very early on in Word Balloon, met all of you guys, and it's just like,
yeah. You had me on early when I was still lettering. It was like, who wants to talk? Who wants to hear about from a letterer? And you were like, you're Greek, you're getting on the show.
Come on, man. Exactly. I got to do that. Yeah. Jesus, that's so funny. Why am I blanking? Monkey. I was going to say, Monkey's the deceptive Greek because he's half Greek, he's half Swedish, and he totally looks Swedish. And it's like, but no, man, he'll talk about his yaya, he'll talk about his papu and everything, and his grandparents. Yeah, no, it's
got a gauge in the picture, and
of course you see Chris. Yeah, but Chris and Tomasi, although Tomasi another one, it's like, yeah, right. Because is he half and half too? Is he half Italian, half Greek?
Yeah, you act like I keep tabs on people.
Come on, Jesus, man. I remember there was a New York that was right during Greek Easter, and non-Greeks, we go by the lunar calendar, so sometimes our Easters sync up with American Easter. Sometimes they're like a month away.
It's like 6 months, same day, and then 3 weeks. No, 6 weeks. Sorry, same day and then 3 weeks. So it like sort of alternates every year.
Yeah. So, so I remember being in New York, and me and Chris Gage just talking. And it's like, seriously, man, we're gonna burn in hell because it's Easter Sunday, and we're sitting here at a comic book convention.
Hey,
shame on us. Absolutely.
Christ has risen, a comic book.
Well, Marvel, although it was Catholic, Marvel did the John Paul II.
They did.
Comic, Steve Grant. So it's not unusual. And of course, DC did the Bible, that big Treasury edition of the Bible. So you're killing me. All right, bud. There you go. I can sotto voce. I know that I don't want you to rasp out on me and everything. But hey, it's been out since Halloween, everybody. The latest I Am book. I Am Mr. Rogers.
Yes, sir.
And man, a wonderful guy that your kids need to know about. and it's a great way to tie into the other great stuff that Brad does with Xavier Riddle in the Secret Museum.
Yeah.
So congratulations on season 2.
Thanks, bud.
And we'll talk. We'll talk more. Whenever. I mean,
Well, Brad's next. We're alternating, right? So Brad goes next.
yeah, sometimes, again, whatever. But no, I'm. It's good that we caught up and everything. So
Always good. And then we get to go and have food at some point, and hopefully when I'm out there.
Please, that would be wonderful. Thanks everybody for watching. Tomorrow night, I don't know if you're a Trauma fan, Chris, but Lloyd Kaufman, the man behind Trauma Films,
Wow.
Toxic Avengers, Sergeant
Toxic
Kabuki,
Avenger, right?
Surf Nazis Must Die, a film now more than ever, a film that we need out there. So I respect that.
So timely.
Indeed. But yeah, he's going to be on tomorrow.
Awesome.
And Santa Grace, speaking of great Marvel books, but right now he's also writing DC. He did that wonderful Iceman miniseries back in the day, and among other books. And he's coming out because he has a new YA Superman graphic novel that he's going to want to talk about. That's on Thursday. So all that coming up on Word Balloon Live. I hope you enjoyed today. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy.